Dust kicked up behind the Chevy 82 as Jack Harlan spotted the woman standing by the side of the road. A cloudy Monday morning, 9 o'clock, and there she was. Backpack on her shoulders, hood of the car propped open, face smudged with dry dirt. Jack slowed without thinking. Out in the country, leaving someone stranded isn't carelessness. It's a character flaw. What he didn't know as he pulled over the old pickup and stepped onto the hard-packed earth was that the stranger in simple clothes and weary eyes was Elena Barrett, millionaire heiress to the Barrett Ranch, the same land where he'd worked as a ranch hand for 8 years, taking orders, mending fences, tending cattle that would never be his. She'd returned to the countryside disguised for exactly that, to see who really kept her empire running without fanfare, without warning, without revealing her name. And the humblest man in Willow Creek, Texas, was about to show the richest woman in the region, something that fortunes couldn't buy and degrees couldn't teach, the true weight of dignity when you have nothing left to offer but it. Jack Harlan was 32 years old, hands calloused from barbed wire and unrelenting sun, and a silence that came from way back, like those men who learned early that words are worth more when you don't waste them. Ranch hand on 3 spreads in the area, he woke at 4:30 in the morning and got home when the stars had already lit up the dark country sky. His routine was as predictable as the seasons: fences, cattle, tractor, dust. The Barrett Ranch was the biggest property where he worked, vast land that was almost mythical to the locals. But the owners? Nobody knew them. There was only Mr. Elias, the foreman, a man of few words, stern face and measured steps who ran everything with an iron fist. Jack obeyed, as he always had, as everyone there did. What Jack couldn't know, and what Elena kept locked away like a secret under 7 seals, was that this roadside encounter wasn't fate's coincidence. It was the start of a brutal collision between 2 worlds that social rules said should never touch. And when the truth finally exploded in everyone's faces, the question would hang in the air like dust after a storm. Can a man who owns nothing but his honor win the respect and perhaps the heart of a woman who inherited everything except someone capable of seeing her just as Elena, without the heavy surname weighing on her back? Jack stepped down from the pickup with the calm of someone who isn't in a hurry because hurry doesn't fix engine trouble. The woman turned when she heard the sound of his boots on the dry ground. She was pretty, not the magazine kind of beauty, but the sort that catches your eye without shouting. Brown hair pulled into a loose ponytail, white cotton shirt stained with sweat, old jeans, 30-something maybe, clear eyes that looked tired of something. "Need a hand?" Jack asked, his voice coming out low, almost swallowed by the wind. She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a streak of grease mixed with dust. The car just died. Tried starting it 3 times, but nothing. Jack approached, peered into the exposed engine. It was a plain sedan, about 10 years old. Nothing fancy. The kind of car that blends in. He touched the battery, checked the cables, tested the belt. Timing belt. "Snapped," he said, wiping his hands on a shirt that was more stained than fabric. "Won't go anywhere like that. Needs a tow." The woman sighed, looked at the cloudy sky as if searching for patience up there. "And where do I get a tow around here?" "In town." "But town's a ways off. About 25 miles. She bit her lip, calculating. She pulled her phone from her pocket, glanced at the screen, shook her head. "No signal." "Never is out here," Jack said. "Only catches sometimes at the ranch entrance." "Ranch?" "Barrett. It's about 5 miles from here. I'm headed that way now. I work there." The woman was silent for a few seconds, her eyes studying Jack in a way he couldn't quite read. It wasn't suspicion. It was curiosity, like she was measuring something. "Could you give me a ride there?" she asked. "I need to get to the ranch anyway." Jack nodded. "Hop in." She grabbed her backpack from the back seat of the car, locked the doors, and walked to the pickup. Jack opened the passenger door, which creaked as always. The seat was covered with an old blanket to hide the torn upholstery. Smell of diesel oil mixed with earth. She got in without complaint. Jack started the engine. The Chevy's motor rumbled, a rough, tired rumble, but reliable. He shifted gears and got back on the dirt road. The silence inside the cab was heavy but not uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence the country teaches. You don't have to fill the void with words just because it exists. The woman looked out the window intently. She watched the barbed wire fences, the expansive pastures where the cattle grazed slowly, the horses in the distance, the workers bent over the land. Jack noticed she wasn't looking like a tourist. She was looking like someone trying to memorize every detail. "How long you been working at the Barrett?" she asked suddenly. 8 years. "And how is it? Working there, I mean." Jack kept his eyes on the road. "It's work. Good land. Good cattle. Mr. Elias is tough but fair. Pays on time. Doesn't ask more than we can give. And the owners? You know them?" He shook his head. "Nobody does. They don't show up. Haven't seen anyone from the family in years. Just the foreman calling the shots. And that doesn't seem odd?" Jack shrugged. "Rich folks are like that. Own the land but don't set foot on it. Own the cattle but don't know them. Hire people to do the work and disappear." The woman went quiet. Jack thought he'd said too much, maybe come off rude, but she didn't seem offended. On the contrary, she seemed to be digesting every word like it was valuable information. "How'd you learn?" she asked after a few minutes. "To work with cattle, the land, all that. My dad, he was a ranch hand too. Died when I was 17. Then I took over. I'm sorry. It's been a while." Another silence, but this time she broke it differently. "That herd over there." She pointed to a bunch near the fence. "They look healthy?" Jack glanced over. "Yeah, you can tell by how they graze. When a cow's sick, it stays away from the rest. Gets isolated. These ones are bunched up, eating good. They're fine. And the land. Can you tell if it's good just by looking?" "You can. Color of the grass, its height if there's bog forming. Good land breathes, bad land suffocates." She smiled. A small, genuine smile. "You talk nice about it." Jack felt his face heat up, but he didn't respond. He didn't know what to say. Nobody had ever said he talked nice about anything. The road started to improve. Hard-packed dirt gave way to gravel, then to old brick pavement. On the horizon, the Barrett Ranch headquarters appeared, a massive white house with tall windows and a wraparound porch on the second floor. It was imposing, beautiful, and completely out of reach for someone like Jack. He parked near the side gate where the hands entered. "We're here," he said. The woman grabbed her backpack, opened the door, but before getting out, she turned to him. "Thanks. Really. No problem. What's your name?" "Jack. Jack Harlan." She extended her hand. Jack hesitated, looked at his own grease-stained hands, but she didn't pull back. He shook. Her hand was firm, warm. "Nice to meet you, Jack." She got out and headed toward the big house. She didn't look back. Jack watched until she disappeared through the side door. Then he started up and went to his work. He had fences to mend in the south pasture. What Jack didn't see was Elena stopping in the inner hallway, leaning her back against the cool wall and taking a deep breath. Her heart was pounding fast, not from fear, from relief. She'd done it. She'd arrived without escort, without announcement, without being recognized. And more importantly, she'd found exactly what she was looking for. Authenticity. The most honest conversation she'd had in months, maybe years, had been with a ranch hand who didn't even know who she was. Elena Barrett was 34 years old and had just inherited an empire. The Barrett Ranch was only one of the properties. There were 5 others scattered across the state, plus investments in packing plants, leased land, stocks in agribusiness companies. When her father died 6 months ago, she was in Chicago, living a life she'd never wanted but had been raised to accept. Corporate lawyer, apartment in Lincoln Park, suitable fiancé from the right family. All planned, all suffocating. The will came with a surprise. She would inherit everything, but with a condition. She had to spend 6 months living on one of the ranches, understanding the business, knowing the land. Her father, in the end, had left a message from beyond the grave. You need to know where what you have comes from. Elena broke off the engagement, quit the firm, and returned. But not as the heiress, as an observer. She wanted to see the truth before the lie of her surname blinded her again. And now, leaning against that cool wall, she knew she'd made the right choice. The news spread through the ranch like wildfire in dry grass. By Wednesday morning, when Jack arrived for work, the buzz had taken over the bunkhouse mess hall. Overlapping voices, nervous laughs, suspicious glances. The heiress showed up, Zeke Ferguson said, stirring sugar into his coffee hard. Last night. Came in the front gate with Mr. Elias. Liar, Tommy shot back. She was here since Monday. Showed up at the office, called everyone in. Jack got his coffee, stayed quiet in the corner. He listened without joining in. It was always like that. They say she's young, pretty, but tough like her old man. Zeke went on. Gonna want to change everything, you bet. Rich folks are all the same, Amos said, crossing his thick arms. He was the oldest of the hands, 50s, body still strong, but pride even stronger. Shows up now and then to pretend they care, then forgets us again. Jack drank his coffee in silence. He couldn't stop thinking about the woman from the road. Where had she gone after entering the big house? Had she gotten her problem sorted? He didn't even know her name. Hadn't asked. At 9 sharp, Mr. Elias appeared in the mess hall doorway. Tall, lean, gray hair combed back, serious expression as always. Listen up. Meeting in the yard in 10 minutes. Everyone. Miss Elena wants to talk to you. The men exchanged looks. Miss Elena, the heiress. Now she had a name. 10 minutes later, 23 men were lined up in the hard-packed dirt yard in front of the big house. The sun was already starting to beat down. Jack stayed in the back as he always did. He preferred not to draw attention. The side door opened. Mr. Elias came out first. And behind him, Jack felt his stomach twist. It was her, the woman from the road. White shirt, jeans, leather boots, hair in the same ponytail. But now there was something different in how she moved. Confidence. Authority. Like she'd taken off a mask. She came down the 3 steps, stopped in the center of the yard, looked at each man. When her eyes met Jack's, he saw a glint. Recognition, but also a silent plea. Don't say anything. Not yet. Good morning. Her voice rang out firm. My name is Elena Barrett. I'm August Barrett's daughter, and now I'm the owner of this ranch. Absolute silence. Some men lowered their heads. Others just stared. I know you don't know me. I grew up here, but I left too young. Lived in Chicago the last 15 years. My father died 6 months ago and I inherited everything. But inheriting doesn't mean understanding. That's why I came back. She took a few steps, hands in her pockets. I didn't come here pretending to know how things work. I came to learn, to listen, and to work alongside you. Amos let out a short laugh, almost inaudible, but Elena heard. Got a problem? She asked, looking straight at him. Amos straightened up. No, ma'am. No problem. Good, because I'm not the boss yet. Boss is who knows how to lead. I'm still learning. She let the words hang, then continued. You'll see me around. In the pastures, the corral, the milking. I'll ask questions, a lot of questions. And I expect you to be honest with me, because if I don't know the truth of this land, I don't deserve to own it. Jack swallowed hard. Her words echoed differently now that he knew who she was. Each sentence gained weight. Back to work, Elena concluded. And thank you. The men dispersed slowly. Jack turned to leave but heard her voice behind him. Jack, a moment, please. He froze. The others glanced over before walking away. Zeke Ferguson gave a crooked smile. Amos frowned. Jack turned slowly. Elena stood 3 yards away, hands still in her pockets, expression softer now. So you've worked here 8 years, she said. Yes, ma'am. And it didn't strike you as strange to give a ride to a stranger headed right here. I figured you were a visitor, or kin to someone, but you didn't ask my name. Don't usually ask what's not my business. Elena smiled. That's exactly why I chose you. How's that? I got here last Friday. Spent 3 days watching from afar before showing up officially. Saw how things run when no one knows the heiress is around. And Monday morning, I made sure my car broke down on that road on purpose. Knew someone would stop. Wanted to see who. Jack was speechless, processing. You set it up? I did. Needed a test. Wanted to see how I'd be treated without the name, and you treated me with respect. No agenda. No ulterior motives. Just help. He didn't know if he should feel offended or impressed. I just did what anyone would. No, not anyone. You did. She took a step forward. I'll need help, Jack. From someone who really knows this land. Someone not afraid to tell me when I'm wrong. And I think you're that someone. I'm just a ranch hand, Miss Elena. And I'm just a lost heiress. I think we fit. Jack didn't know what to say. He just nodded. Go on, she said. But tomorrow I want you to show me the irrigation ditch. Heard you take care of it. I do. Then show me, 7 a.m. She turned and went back to the big house. Jack stood in the empty yard, sun beating on his neck, head spinning. He'd just found out the woman from the road owned it all. And more. She wanted his help. It didn't make sense. But it made all the sense in the world. When he got to the south pasture, Zeke Ferguson was already there mending fence. So, Jack, the boss lady call you out? No, just asked about the ditch. Careful, buddy. Pretty woman asking questions is dangerous business. Jack didn't respond. He grabbed the pliers and got to work, but Elena's voice kept echoing in his head. You treated me with respect. As if that was rare. As if that was special. And maybe it was. That night, Jack ate alone in his small house near the pasture. Rice, beans, fried egg. Always the same. Then he sat on the wooden porch, lit a cigarette, a habit he tried to quit but never could, and looked at the starry sky. He thought of his dad, what he'd say about all this. Probably something like, watch out for folks from up top, son. They use you and toss you aside. But Elena didn't seem like that. She seemed different, lost maybe, looking for something Jack couldn't name. He stubbed out the cigarette, went in, and slept. Tomorrow would be a long day. Jack woke at 5 a.m., as always. But that Thursday, something was different. He showered more carefully, put on the least worn shirt, ran his hand through his hair 3 times before heading out. Then he realized what he was doing and felt ashamed. It was just work, just showing the boss lady the ditch, nothing more. But his stomach disagreed. He got to the ditch at 6:45, wanted to be early. The place was special to him, a stretch of old concrete where water from the river diverted to irrigate the east pastures. There was a fallen oak log there, turned natural bench, and the shade was generous even midday. Jack spent breaks sitting there, listening to the water run, smoking, thinking of nothing. Elena arrived at 7 on the dot, walking down the dirt path, boots hitting the ground firm, hair loose this time, swaying in the wind. She carried a thermos and a cloth-wrapped bundle. Morning, she said, smiling. Morning, Miss Elena. Just Elena's fine. Jack nodded but knew he couldn't. The miss came automatic. It was respect his dad had taught. You don't lose it. Brought coffee and biscuits, she said, lifting the bundle. Thought we could have some while you explain. They sat on the log. Elena unwrapped it, revealing 6 still warm biscuits. The smell filled the air, mixed with the sound of water and birdsong. Jack took one, thanked her quietly, bit in. It was perfect. Homemade. Warm inside. You make these? He asked. I did. Recipe from my grandma. She taught me when I was little before I left. They're good. Thanks. They ate in silence for a few minutes. It wasn't uncomfortable silence. It was the kind that exists between people who don't need to fill every second with empty words. Jack appreciated that. Most folks feared silence. Elena didn't. Explain how it works, she asked, pointing to the ditch. Jack wiped his hands on his jeans, stood, walked to the edge of the concrete. Water comes from the river, about 2 miles that way. He pointed west. Enters through that gate, flows down controlled by the drop, and splits into 4 branches. Each irrigates a different pasture. The trick is regulating the flow. Too much water drowns the roots. Too little starves them. And how do you know the right amount? By looking, feeling the soil, weighing it in your hand. Soggy soil sticks different. Dry soil crumbles. Elena approached, knelt at the ditch edge, dipped her hand in the running water. She closed her eyes for a second, feeling the temperature, the current's force. My dad brought me here when I was a kid, she said softly. We'd sit on that log and he'd tell stories. Said this ditch was built by my great-grandpa. It saved the ranch during the big drought of 1963. It did. Mr. Elias tells that story all the time. Says without this ditch, half the herd would have died. Elena pulled her hand from the water, shook her fingers, looked to the horizon. I loved this place, but when I grew up, I stopped coming. My mom said a girl from a good family shouldn't get dirty in the brush, that I needed to study, make something of myself. And you did. She smiled without joy. I did. Became a lawyer. Worked at a firm in Chicago where I hardly saw the sky. Defended big companies in cases I barely understood. Made good money. And was completely miserable. Jack didn't know what to say. Stayed quiet. Waiting. When my dad died, it was like a rope snapping. The one holding me to that life that wasn't mine. Then I read the will. He'd put in that clause requiring me to come back. At first, I thought it was punishment. But now I know it was a gift. She looked at Jack. He wanted me to remember, to feel again, to go back to being the girl who played in this ditch. And are you? Elena took a deep breath, chest rising and falling slowly. I'm starting. They went back to the log. Elena poured coffee into the thermos lid, shared it with Jack. The coffee was strong, bitter, good. They drank watching the water flow. Can I ask you something? Elena said. Sure. Why have you never left here? Never wanted to see other places? Jack thought before answering. Because this is my place. I know every inch of this land. Where the wind blows coolest, where the grass grows best, where the cows like to lie down when it's too hot. It ain't much, but it's mine. You talk like the land's yours. And it is. Not on paper, but in my chest. Elena went quiet, absorbing the words. Then she said, my dad said something similar. Said owner isn't who has the deed, it's who knows the land by name. Your dad was wise. He was. And stubborn, and distant, but wise. The sun started climbing stronger. Jack glanced at the invisible clock all countrymen carry inside, the one that measures time by the sun's position, the light's intensity. Gotta go, he said. Got fence to mend in the north pasture. Elena nodded, packed the thermos. Can I come back here? Tomorrow, maybe? Jack hesitated, not because he didn't want to, but because something in it felt dangerous. Like each talk brought them closer to an invisible line he couldn't define. You can, he said finally. Same time? Same time. They stood. Elena extended her hand again, like she had on Monday. Jack shook, but this time her hand lingered a second longer. Or maybe it was his imagination. She walked back to the big house. Jack watched until she vanished around the path's bend. Then he grabbed his tools and went to work. But his mind was far away, at the ditch. The smell of biscuits. The way she'd closed her eyes touching the water. In the days that followed, it became routine. Every day, 7 a.m., Jack and Elena met at the ditch. She always brought something, biscuits, cornbread, corn muffins, hot coffee. They ate, talked, stayed silent when silence was better than words. Elena asked about everything. How to spot a sick cow. How to read the weather by cloud color. How long a fence lasts. Best month to plant new grass. Jack answered calmly, unhurried, like teaching without charge. But other eyes were watching. Amos, the old hand, started noticing. He saw Elena walking to the ditch every morning. Saw Jack arriving early, waiting. And saw them coming back an hour later. Her smiling. Him with a different look in his eyes. Jack's getting ideas, Amos commented in the mess hall one Monday morning. Thinks because the boss lady talks to him, he's special. Zeke Ferguson laughed. Let the guy be, she's learning. Jack explains well. Explaining or charming? Amos shot back, voice laced with venom. The boss lady ain't gonna mix with a ranch hand. It's a game, and when she tires of it, she'll toss him like used tissue. Tommy, the youngest of the bunch, chimed in. You all are jealous. Jack's good at what he does. Miss Elena saw that. Jealous? Amos stood, chest puffed. I've been here 20 years, kid. Seen folks like her come and go. None of them really care about us. It's all show. Jack walked into the mess hall right then. Silence fell like a stone. He felt the heavy air but said nothing. Got his coffee, sat far off, drank in silence. Amos eyed him with narrowed eyes. And in that moment, a bad seed was planted. Seed of jealousy, wounded pride, envy disguised as concern. And bad seeds, in due time, always sprout. 3 weeks passed. Fall arrived gently. bringing cool mornings and golden afternoons. The ditch routine became part of the ranch. Everyone knew that at 7 a.m., Miss Elena and Jack would be there. Some thought it sweet. Others, like Amos, thought it dangerous. Elena had changed. Anyone seeing her now wouldn't recognize the Chicago lawyer. Her hands had small calluses from helping with the milking. Her face was rosier, marked by the country sun. She laughed more, spoke louder, seemed lighter, like she'd shed an invisible weight. And Jack? Jack was different too. Talked more, smiled more. There was a light in his eyes the other hands noticed but didn't comment on, at least not to his face. On a Thursday, Elena showed up at the ditch with a different proposal. "Today I want you to teach me to mend fence," she said, eyes shining with enthusiasm. Jack frowned. "That ain't work for you, ma'am." "Why not?" "Because barbed wire cuts, hurts, and Mr. Elias'll have my hide if you get hurt." Elena crossed her arms. "Jack, I'm not made of china. And if I'm going to run this ranch, I need to know how to do everything, including mending fence." He sighed. Knew arguing was pointless when she got that firm tone. "All right, but wear gloves." She smiled triumphantly. They went to the north pasture, where a section of fence was damaged from a branch that fell in the last rain. Jack got the pliers, roll of new wire, staples. Elena stood beside him watching every move. "First you cut the old wire," he explained, making the cut precisely. "Then measure the new, leave about 4 inches extra on each side for the knot. The secret's in the knot. If it loosens, the whole fence goes slack." He tied it with quick, sure movements repeated 1,000 times. Then turned to her. "Now you." Elena took the pliers, tried cutting the wire. The tool slipped. She tried again, got it. Took the new wire, started tying. Her fingers, even gloved, lacked the needed dexterity. The knot came out crooked. "That won't hold," Jack said gently. "Let me show you again." He stood behind her, took her hands in his, guided the motion. The wire went over, under, formed the knot. Elena held her breath. Jack was so close she could feel his warmth on her back, the smell of soap mixed with earth. "Got it?" he asked, voice lower than usual. "I think so." He released her hands, stepped back 2 paces. The air between them hummed with something unspoken. Elena finished tying the wire, firmer this time. When she tugged to test, the knot held. "I did it!" she cheered, turning to him with a wide smile. Jack smiled back, a real smile, lighting up his whole face. "You did." In that moment, riding along the nearby trail, Amos saw the scene. Saw Elena smiling, saw Jack smiling back, saw their closeness, the ease, the rapport, and something dark twisted in his chest. That night Amos made a decision. He waited until midnight, then grabbed a shovel, walked to the irrigation ditch and dug a strategic trench diverting part of the water. It wasn't much, just enough to cause a small flood in the east pasture. Enough to look like neglect by the ditchkeeper. Enough to tarnish Jack's reputation. On Friday morning, Mr. Elias woke Jack before dawn. Problem in the east pasture, it's flooded. The ditch overflowed. "Weren't you watching it?" Jack jumped up, dressed in a rush, ran to the spot. When he arrived, he saw the damage. Water had invaded about 100 yards of pasture, soaking the soil, ruining the new grass they'd planted 2 weeks ago. Mr. Elias was there, arms crossed, face closed. "How'd this happen, Jack?" "Don't know. Everything was fine yesterday. I checked before leaving. Then someone tampered. Has to be." Elias assessed, walked to the trench, diverting the water. This was dug with a shovel, on purpose. Jack felt his blood boil. He knew who did it. No proof, but he knew. "I'll find out who," he said through clenched teeth. "No need. I already know." Elena's voice came from behind them. She walked through the wet pasture, boots sinking in the mud, face set in anger. Behind her came Amos, dragged by 2 other hands. "Tommy saw him coming back in the dark with a muddy shovel," Elena explained. "I confronted him just now." He confessed. Amos spat the words with contempt. "Did what needed doing. That kid's getting too big for his britches. Needs to learn his place." Jack stepped forward, fists clenched. Elias grabbed his arm. Easy. But Elena wasn't easy. She approached Amos, eyes hard as stone. "His place?" she repeated, voice low but cutting. His place is tending this land with respect. And your place, Amos, isn't here anymore. You're fired. Amos's eyes widened. You can't do that. I've worked here 20 years. And in those 20 years, you learned you could sabotage others' work without consequence. Then you learned wrong. You're doing this because of him? Amos pointed at Jack with disdain. Because he's fooling you, making you look silly? He's not fooling me, he's teaching me. And you, with your 20 years of experience, just taught me that time on the payroll isn't the same as character. She turned to Elias. Pay him through the end of the month. And I want him off the ranch by morning. Elias nodded. The two hands took Amos away, him still yelling threats and curses. When it was just the three of them, Elena, Jack, and Elias, the silence fell heavy. Jack, I'm sorry, Elena said. This was because of me. Wasn't. It was him. He's always been that way. Jealous. Just didn't have reason to turn on me before. But now he does. The sentence hung, loaded with meaning. Elias cleared his throat. I'll check the other pastures. Excuse me. He walked off, leaving them alone. Elena looked at the flooding, then at Jack. People are talking, she said softly. I know. They're saying I'm mixing too much, that it ain't right. And is it? Jack asked, looking straight into her eyes. Right or wrong? Elena took a deep breath. I don't know, Jack. I just know that when I'm with you, I feel more myself than I have in the last 15 years. And that scares me. Why? Because there are rules. Proper ways to do things, and we're breaking them all. Jack took a step closer. The distance between them was small now. Dangerous. What if the rules are wrong? Then we'll pay for breaking them, Elena said, voice trembling slightly. They stood like that, frozen, eyes locked on the edge of something neither could name, until Elena stepped back. I need to go. Got a meeting with the accountant. She turned and walked back to the big house. Jack stayed in the flooded pasture, heart pounding unevenly, certainty growing inside that he'd crossed a line. And there was no going back. That afternoon, Elna didn't show at the hands' dinner like she had been, nor the next day. Jack saw her from afar, talking with Elias, reviewing papers in the office, inspecting the barn. But she didn't seek him out, and he didn't seek her. The ditch stayed empty for 3 days. On Saturday, Jack had to go to town. The pickup's clutch was starting to slip, and he needed parts from Geraldo's auto shop. Willow Creek, Texas was small, 10,000 folks, everybody knew everybody, and secrets lasted less than morning dew in the sun. Jack parked in front of the shop, got out, went in. Geraldo was at the counter, but seeing Jack, his usual smile faltered. It turned forced. Hey, Jack. What do you need? Clutch kit for the Chevy 82. Geraldo wrote it down, went to the back. Jack waited, eyeing the shelves full of parts. The shop door opened. In came 3 men. Big Mark, owner of the corner bar, Mr. Ray, from the pharmacy, and Clyde, who ran a little market in the square. All in their 50s, prominent bellies, loud laughs. When they saw Jack, they exchanged glances, malicious smirks. Look who's here, Big Mark said, voice too loud. The boss lady's favorite hand. Jack felt his neck heat, but didn't respond. Kept looking at the shelves. They say she called you special, Ray went on. You two having coffee every day, how romantic. Clyde laughed. Watch it, Jack. Rich woman plays with a poor boy like a kid with a stray dog, feeds him, pets him, but when she's bored, leaves him. Ain't like that, Jack said quietly, still not looking at them. Ain't it? Big Mark stepped closer. Then explain. What's a woman who inherited millions doing sipping coffee with a ranch hand on minimum wage? She's learning about the ranch. Learning? Ray guffawed. Jack, you dumb or pretending? She's having fun, and when she gets tired, you'll be back to what you always were, nobody. Jack turned to them, jaw tight. You don't know her. And you do? Clyde shot back. You think because she smiles at you, talks to you, she sees you as equal? Buddy, you're an employee. Property. She's the owner. You ain't equals. Never will be. The back door opened. Geraldo returned with the parts box, sensed the tension. Here, Jack. $240. Jack paid in silence. Took the box. The three men still chuckled, quieter now, but loud enough to hear. "And the worst," Big Mark said as Jack headed out, "is he thinks he's got a shot. Poor guy." The door slammed behind Jack. He put the box in the pickup bed, leaned on the hot metal, breathed deep. The words had sunk in like thorns, and thorns, if not pulled quick, fester. He got in the pickup, started it, but instead of heading straight back to the ranch, he drove aimlessly through the empty town streets, past the square, the church, the market, and at every corner he felt the stares. Everyone knew. Everyone talked. Everyone judged. When he finally got back to the ranch, it was noon. He went straight home, locked the door, sat on the bed, stared at his own hands, calloused, rough, grease-stained, working man's hands, hands that would never hold Elena's without seeming wrong to the world's eyes. And for the first time since meeting her, Jack felt shame. Shame for being who he was. Shame for believing, even for a second, that something could exist between them beyond boss and hand. He didn't show at the ditch on Monday, nor Tuesday. Worked far off, in the back pastures where he knew Elena wouldn't go. Got home at dark, ate whatever, slept. Or tried. But sleep didn't come easy. On Wednesday afternoon, while mending the corral gate, Elena appeared, walking determined, face set. Jack pretended not to see, kept working. "Jack." He didn't answer, kept tightening the screw. "Jack, look at me." He stopped but didn't look, kept eyes on the tools. "Why are you avoiding me?" she asked, voice lower now. "Ain't avoiding. Working. Liar. You've vanished. No more at the ditch. Won't even look at me when we pass. What happened?" Jack finally looked. His eyes were tired, heavy. "Nothing happened. I just understood my place." "Your place?" Elena frowned. "What do you mean?" "That I'm the hand, you're the boss. And I forgot that for a bit. But the town reminded me." "The town?" Her voice tensed. "Someone said something to you?" Jack looked away. "Doesn't matter." "It does. Tell me." He sighed, set down the screwdriver, faced her again. "Went to town Saturday. The guys there, they laughed at me. Said you're toying with me. That when you tire, you'll toss me aside. That I'm a fool to think we could." He stopped, swallowed hard. "That we could be anything." Elena stepped forward, eyes welling up. "And you believe them? Believe the part that makes sense? We're from different worlds, Elena. You've got education, money, future. I've got these hands here." He held up his grease-stained hands. "And an old pickup that barely runs. I got nothing to offer. And everybody knows it except me, who was fool enough to forget." "You're not a fool," Elena said, voice breaking. "You're the truest person I've met in years. But truth don't pay bills, Elena. Truth don't change where I come from. Don't change what I am. And what are you?" She took another step, now inches from him. "An honest man? Hard worker? Kind? Ain't that enough?" "Not when everybody's yelling it ain't." Jack's voice came out hoarse. "Not when I go to town and I'm the joke. Not when even my own crew looks at me sideways." Elena cupped his face with both hands, forcing him to meet her eyes. "Then yell with me. Yell louder than them. But don't run from me." Jack felt his throat tighten. He wanted to believe, wanted so bad to believe it was possible. But the weight of the town's words, the others' looks, the cruel reality was too much. "I can't," he said, gently pulling her hands away. "Because this ain't my world, Elena. And yours. It screams for me to get out. And I'm tired of pretending I don't hear." He grabbed his tools, turned his back, walked to the barn. Elena stood there, tears streaming silently down her face, arms limp at her sides. When Jack looked back, the last image he saw was Elena walking back to the big house, shoulders slumped, like she'd taken an invisible but devastating blow. That night, Jack didn't eat. Sat on the porch, lit a cigarette, let the pain take hold. Pain of wanting something impossible. Pain of tasting something too good to be true. Pain of knowing he'd done the right thing. Step back, but feeling like he'd made the worst choice of his life. And in some room of the massive house, Elena cried alone, hugging a pillow, wondering when the world had gotten so small and cruel. 2 days dragged like weeks. Jack worked in silence, came home in silence, existed in silence. The other hands noticed, but no one said a word. There was a sadness in the air no one knew how to break. Elena changed too. Went back to distant, formal. Gave orders through Elias, reviewed papers in the office, avoided the pastures. It was like they'd both returned to their original places. She in the big house, him in the fields. As it should be. As everyone said it was right. But something was boiling inside Elena. Something growing with every avoided glance, every forced distance, every memory of those mornings at the ditch. And on Friday morning, waking before dawn, she made a decision. If the world wanted to set the rules, she'd show some rules were meant to be broken. At 8 a.m., Elena left the big house dressed simply. Jeans, white cotton shirt, worn leather boots. Hair loose, no makeup. She climbed into the ranch pickup and drove to town. Didn't tell Elias. Didn't ask permission from anyone. She arrived in Willow Creek, Texas, as shops were opening. Parked in the central square, got out, and walked to Clyde's market. When she entered, some folks looked surprised. The Barrett heiress shopping at the local market? Usually they sent hands. Elena grabbed a basket, started picking items. Beans, rice, coffee, sugar. Simple things. Walked the narrow aisles calmly, unhurried. Clyde came running from the back, wiping hands on his apron. "Miss Elena, what a surprise. If you'd called, I could have set everything aside and had it delivered to the ranch." "No need, Clyde. Came myself. Like to choose." She kept going, past the bakery section, grabbed fresh French bread still warm, past the deli, got some cheddar. Clyde followed like a shadow, nervous, not knowing what to do with his hands. At the checkout, 3 ladies waited. Mrs. Marlene, Mrs. Ida, and Mrs. Ada, the biggest gossips in town. When they saw Elena, their eyes lit up. Fresh meat to grind. "Look who showed," Marlene said, loud enough for Elena to hear. The city girl back to play rancher. Elena set her items on the counter, looked straight at Marlene. "Morning, Mrs. Marlene. How are you?" The woman was flustered for a second, but recovered quick. "I'm fine. And you? Must be busy at the ranch, huh? Teaching the hands? Or getting taught?" The other 2 chuckled softly. Elena kept her face calm. "Getting taught? And I'm grateful. The Barrett ranch workers know more about land and dignity than anyone I met in Chicago." Marlene narrowed her eyes. "Dignity? Pretty word. But tell me, dear, is it dignified for a woman in your position to mix with a ranch hand? Folks talk, you know." Elena paid for her items, took the bags, turned to face the 3 women head on. Folks talk because folks got nothing better to do. And if respect and learning bother you so much, the problem ain't mine. It's theirs who think money gives you the right to look down on people. The whole market went silent. Even Clyde stopped breathing. "You're defending Jack?" Ada asked, voice full of venom. "Everybody knows he's fooling himself. That you're just passing time." "Everybody knows?" Elena repeated, voice firmer. "Or everybody made it up? Because far as I know, the only ones who know what I feel and think are me. And nobody here has the right to judge." "But you need to understand," Ida jumped in. "He's a simple guy. No education, no future. Not your level." Elena stepped forward, eyes hard as stone. "Level? Jack Harlan's got more character in his little finger than a lot of level folks I knew have in their whole body. He's honest, hard-working kind. And if that's not enough for you, then you're measuring wrong." She faced the 3 women. "And let me be clear. If I hear one more mean comment about him, one more joke, one more side-eye, you'll find out I'm not just an heiress. I'm a lawyer. And I know exactly how to sue for defamation." The silence was total now. Elena grabbed her bags, walked to the door, stopped at the threshold, turned back one last time. "Oh, and Mrs. Marlene, dignity's got no price, no social class. It's character, and in that, Jack's worth more than the whole town." She left. The door banged behind her. Inside the market, no one moved for long seconds, until Clyde let out the breath he'd held. "Lord have mercy," he muttered. Elena put the bags in the pickup, but didn't get in. Walked across the square, past Ray's pharmacy, Big Mark's bar, Geraldo's auto shop. At each place she went in, greeted, made sure to be seen. To show she had no shame. Wouldn't hide. At the auto shop, when Geraldo greeted with his usual fake smile, Elena approached the counter. Geraldo, I heard you made some comments about Jack the other day, disrespectful ones. Geraldo paled. Me, Miss Elena, I didn't. Don't lie, I know what you said. And I'm here to make one thing clear. Jack works for me, and any disrespect to him is disrespect to me. Got it? Yes, ma'am. Good, because the Barrett Ranch spends a lot on parts every month, and I'd rather spend with folks who respect my hands. Clear? Geraldo swallowed hard. Clear. Elena left, and at every stop she left the same message. Respect him, or deal with me. When she got back to the ranch, it was noon. She looked for Jack, found him in the corral, sorting calves. When he saw her approaching, his whole body tensed. Jack, I need to talk to you, she said. Miss Elena, I already said, and now I'm talking. She cut him off. I went to town today, talked to folks, made it real clear what I think about you, and about them. Jack stared, confused. Why'd you do that? Because you're right. The world's yelling for you to get out, but I decided to yell louder. She stepped closer. I don't know what we are, Jack. Don't know if it'll work. Don't know how to fix the differences. But I know one thing. I won't let anyone humiliate you because of me. Elena. No. Listen. Her eyes shone now. You said you got nothing to offer, but you gave me more in 3 weeks than I had in 15 years. You gave me honesty, respect, showed me how to feel the ground under my feet again, and if that's not everything, Jack, then I don't know what is. Jack was speechless. His chest rose and fell fast. Hands trembled slightly. What if it don't work? He asked, voice almost a whisper. Then we tried. And that's more than most get. They stood there, world spinning around while time stopped between them. Jack looked at her, really looked. Saw not the heiress, not the boss, but Elena. The woman who ate biscuits with him at the ditch, who'd learned to tie wire, who'd come back to the land because the land called. I'm scared, he admitted. Me too. She smiled, tears in her eyes. But we'll be scared together. Jack extended his hand dirty from earth, work, truth. Elena took it without hesitation. And there, in the middle of the corral, surrounded by cattle and dust and hot noon sun, they took the first step. 6 months passed since that day in the corral. 6 months that changed not just Jack and Elena, but the ranch itself. Fall had given way to winter, and now spring painted the fields with vivid colors. The ditch routine returned, but now it was different, lighter, truer. Jack and Elena met every morning, but hid no more. Drank coffee, talked, laughed. And when they crossed paths in the pastures during the day, they didn't avert eyes. On the contrary, they stopped, exchanged words, moved on. The town had learned to swallow its talk. After the market scene, Mrs. Marlene stayed quiet. Geraldo treated Jack with respect now. Big Mark from the bar even offered a free beer one afternoon. Sorry for the comments, he'd muttered, eyes down. Jack accepted the apology with a nod. No grudge in him. Never had been. At the ranch, things changed too. Elena implemented improvements, increased the hands' pay, started a profit-sharing program, renovated the houses where the crew lived. But more than that, she'd become present. No longer the distant heiress, she was Elena, the woman who helped with milking, hauled feed sacks when needed, sat in the mess hall with the workers eating the same food. And Jack? Jack had become a kind of informal foreman. Mr. Elias saw Elena trusted him, started including him in decisions. When she had questions on planting, handling, anything land-related, it was Jack she asked. He never lost his humility. Still mended fences, tended cattle, did the heavy work. But now he had a voice, had recognized value. Zeke Ferguson had said once over coffee in the mess hall, Jack was always good at what he does, just needed someone to see it. And everyone agreed. On a Saturday in October, Elena woke before dawn. She had something planned, something she'd thought about for weeks. She took a young golden rain tree sapling she'd ordered from the nursery in the next town, put it in the pickup, and drove to the ditch. She arrived as the sky was still brushed pink and orange, chose a strategic spot, beside the log where they always sat, on good fertile ground, grabbed the shovel, dug the hole carefully, planted the sapling, covered it with soil, watered it. When done, her hands were dirty, knees mud-marked. She sat on the log, looked at the small tree, still fragile, still young, but roots taking hold in the earth, and smiled. "You do that?" Jack's voice came from behind. Elena turned. He stood on the path, hands in pockets, that small smile she loved at the corners of his mouth. "I did," she replied. Jack approached, eyed the sapling. "Golden rain tree. Takes about 5 years to bloom." "I know. That's why I planted it now." He looked at her, getting the meaning. "Some things need to grow in their own time," Elena said, echoing words he'd used months ago about fences, cattle, life. Jack sat beside her on the log. Their shoulders touched. The sun began rising slowly, gilding everything. "You tell your family yet?" he asked. "About us?" Elena sighed. "I did. My mom nearly had a fit. Said I'm throwing it all away, ruining the family name. That I should have stayed with Ryan, my ex-fiancé. And what did you say? That the family name's worth nothing if I can't look in the mirror without shame for who I am. And that Ryan never saw me. You do." Jack took her hand. Hand that now had calluses like his. Hand that had learned to work, feel earth, build. "I'm scared I'll let you down," he admitted. "I'll never have money. Never give you trips, fancy dinners, that stuff." Elena laced her fingers in his. "Jack, you gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever. You gave me roots, ground, taught me happiness ain't having everything, it's valuing what you got." "Pretty philosophy," he said, in his simple way. "True philosophy," she corrected. They sat there watching the sun rise fully, hearing the ditch water run, feeling the cool morning breeze. No need for more words. Some things don't need them. The following weeks brought bigger changes. Elena announced officially she'd live on the ranch permanently. No going back to Chicago. She'd run everything from there. The news stirred investors, but she was firm. "Can't run land from afar," she'd said in a tense video call meeting. "Either I'm here, or I walk away from it all." No one wanted to lose the Barrett, so they accepted. Jack got an offer too. Mr. Elias, planning to retire at year's end, suggested Jack step up as assistant foreman. "You know this land better than anyone," Elias had said. "And Miss Elena trusts you, it's the right choice." Jack was stunned. Him? Assistant foreman? A ranch hand who'd barely finished high school? But Elena had held his face in her hands and said, "Assistant foreman don't need a degree. Needs knowledge, honesty, love for the land, and you got it all." He accepted. On a December Sunday, as summer started showing its face, Jack and Elena threw a party at the ranch, invited all the hands, their families, town folks, set up long tables under the trees, loaded with home cooking, put on country music to play. Mrs. Marlene showed up, apologized formally to Elena, brought a cornbread she'd baked. Elena accepted gracefully. Geraldo brought his family. Big Mark brought beer as a gift. Even Amos appeared. He'd found work on another spread, but came to apologize to Jack personally. "I was proud," Amos said, hat in hand. "Jealous. You didn't deserve that." Jack shook his hand. "It's past. No hard feelings." Amos nodded, relieved, and joined the party. When night fell and stars lit the sky, Elena climbed on a chair, asked for attention. Talk stopped. All eyes on her. "I want to thank you," she started, voice firm but emotional. "A year ago I came back lost. Didn't know who I was, where I was going. But you welcomed me, taught me, showed me what really matters." She looked straight at Jack in the crowd's midst. "And one man in particular showed me value ain't in what you have, but what you are. That character can't be bought. That true love don't ask permission to arrive, it just arrives, turns everything upside down and stays." Some women dabbed tears. Zeke whistled. Jack felt his face burn, but didn't look away. "So I want to announce," Elena went on, "that Jack Harlan will be the new foreman of the Barrett Ranch starting January. And that she took a deep breath, "that I can't imagine my life without him." The crowd erupted in applause, shouts, whistles. Jack was practically carried by the other hands to Elena. When he reached her, Elena stepped down from the chair, took his hands. "Was that a proposal?" he asked quietly, just for her. "It was a declaration," she replied, smiling with tears in her eyes. "Then I accept." They kissed there, in front of everyone. No shame, no fear. And the whole ranch celebrated. The following months were adjustment. Jack learned the admin side with Elias, who delayed retirement to help the transition. Elena balanced business duties with ranch life. They lived in separate houses still, for respect, for time, for building right. But every morning, without fail, they met at the ditch, drank coffee, talked, stayed silent when silence was best. And the golden rain tree grew, slowly, but it grew. 4.5 years later, on a golden September morning, Jack woke early. It was Elena's birthday, 39. He'd planned something special. He took the simple silver ring he'd saved months for, put it in his pocket, and went to the ditch. Arrived before dawn. Waited. Elena arrived at 7, as always. But when she saw Jack, she stopped. Because the golden rain tree, the one she'd planted 4.5 years ago, was in bloom. Fully in bloom. Yellow flowers covered the branches, dropping golden petals to the ground, creating a carpet of color around the log where they always sat. Jack, she whispered, hands to her mouth. It bloomed, he said simply. She walked slowly, stepping on the petals, touching the flowering branches reverently. Tears already streamed down her face. Some things need to grow in their own time, Jack said, echoing her words from years ago. And I think we grew. He knelt there, amid the yellow petals under the tree they'd watched come to life. Elena Barrett, will you spend the rest of your life having coffee with me at this ditch? She couldn't answer properly. Just nodded, crying, laughing, kneeling too, kissing him like it was the first and last time all at once. Yes, she finally said, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the simple ring on her finger. She slipped the one she'd brought, because she knew Jack, knew he'd ask, knew the time had come, on his. And there, under the blooming golden rain tree surrounded by golden petals and true promises, they understood something fundamental. True love doesn't grow in fertile soil of privilege or money. It grows in honest soil of respect, patience, and shared roots. 6 months later, they married on the ranch itself. Simple outdoor ceremony under the golden rain tree that was now their symbol. The whole town came, all the hands. Even Elena's mom showed, still stiff, still disapproving, but there. And when the preacher asked if anyone objected to the union, Mrs. Marlene yelled from the back, "If anyone's got a problem, they'll have to go through me first." The whole ranch laughed. And when Jack kissed Elena, now his wife, the golden rain petals fell like a golden blessing over them. Years later, when they already had 2 kids running through the pastures, when the ranch had become a model of shared management, when Jack was respected across the region as one of the best rural foremen, he still woke early, still went to the ditch, still sat on the log, and Elena still arrived at 7 sharp with hot coffee and biscuits, because some things don't need to change. Some things are perfect just as they are. And as the ditch water ran eternal, as the golden rain tree bloomed every year painting the ground gold, as their kids learned to love the land like they had, Jack and Elena understood the most important lesson. It don't matter where you come from. Matters where you choose to go, and who you choose to walk with, and they'd chosen right.